Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown on this Thursday edition. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coast. But as you all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, he does not. I help out when I have the opportunity, when I have the time, a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, maybe some yesterday also. Coming to you from the East Coast, this is Mike Piwowarski. I will be co-hosting today's program from my alternate work location. Sorry, we're not in the Bravo room.
I know, it's like, on Thirsty Thursday, I'm looking at your background and there's nothing to drink.
I have a small beverage that's non-alcoholic in a small green can, but I'm not going to show the name of it because they're not paying us. But I do have a beverage, just so you know.
Okay, well that is good to know. I very much appreciate you giving me that little bit of a heads up.
Anything I can do for you, anything I can do for you. In fact, here, I'll take a sip of it for you.
There you go. I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate that.
How was your hump day, sir?
It was good. We sat down with the family and watched the newest Suicide Squad movie. It was hilarious. I actually enjoy it much more than the first one.
Okay. I'll put it on the list. Then. Always looking for new things to watch during this 2-week COVID shutdown.
2-week COVID shutdown? You guys are in the middle of a COVID shutdown?
Wasn't that what we're doing? I thought we were just shutting down for 2 weeks because we had to flatten the curve and keep the ventilators open and keep the ICU beds. This is not we're still in the 2-week shutdown? I thought we were still in the 2-week shutdown.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes and no, because it's no longer a 2-week shutdown. It's more like a 2-year shutdown. Probably working on a 2-decade shutdown.
Yeah, at least until a Republican is back in office.
Okay, so now we're talking about what, a 4-score, 70, a 2-score shutdown. There you go.
Exactly right. Yeah, there you go.
All right, sir. So where are we located today? Because I noticed. Anyway, obviously you're not in the Bravo. You're not in location Bravo.
No. I'm at a hangar at a very large airport. Inside the hangar office, my hangar office inside a very large airport. And look, I even got a flight badge that I can't show you, but I can show you mine. Yeah.
Nice lanyard.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that a flight badge, or are you just happy to see me?
Yes.
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and get into today's news. Now, you may or may not be aware. I don't know if you guys follow Alex Jones. I've never been a big fan of Alex Jones. But Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist who took over a program called, or a thing called network, whatever you want to call it, called InfoWars, or website, blog, whatever you want to call it. That used to actually be very good at, I always like to say, conspiracy theories, or putting conspiracy theories out there. And interestingly enough, with the amount of research they did, there were a lot of times, a lot of stuff they had on there that was actually turned out to be true. But he was a big supporter of Donald Trump. And now, if you watched the speech that Donald Trump gave the other day in Alabama, he actually came out and said that he got the vaccine and he encourages people to get the vaccine, but people have their choice and yada, yada, yada. And well, Alex Jones came out and basically said that, that he was duped, that the vaccine is nothing more than it's something that's going to mutate people. And that Donald Trump was please forgive my French, dumbass for taking the vaccine. I just found it interesting because he used to be one of Donald Trump's most ardent supporters.
Yes, Craig, and I don't think that's French, by the way, and we pronounce it Dumas. He is
Dumas. He is a Dumas.
Yeah, but it's kind of like he was a great Trump supporter, and probably still is a decent Trump supporter. But President Trump would take anybody that was supporting him, including Alex Jones, and say, yeah, thank you for your support, thank you for your support. It's not like they were out campaigning together or anything like that. I watched the Alabama speech, and I saw the former president say, listen, you got your personal freedoms, you got your guns, you got everything you want, you got personal freedoms, and that's the most important thing. And it's your choice if you want to get the vaccination. He goes, I got it. It's not that bad, and if it doesn't work, you'll be the first one to know, laughing about it. Listen, you and I have said on here, since day one with this, it's about personal decision, personal responsibility. The president's in that category, Craig. The former president's in that category. What's he, 75 now, 76? He's in the high risk. So he waits, gets some good information, finds out which vaccine's not killing old people, and gets the vaccine. I mean, I can't blame the guy for that, but he stood there and said, it's your choice. If you don't want one, don't get it.
Well, no, exactly. Well, I guess the thing is to me, this is an example of how we act like and we go after and we talk bad about someone who we agree with on 95% of stuff, right? They do one thing or take one position that we disagree with and on one thing, right? Not even in that whole general issue area. But then we're really quick to just completely throw them under the bus, call them a rhino, and totally disregard them. I always go back to the great example of Colonel Allen West when he signed the Defense Reauthorization Act, and people got really pissed at him, saying, "Oh, there's all this stuff in it," and he's like, "I'm sorry, but I read it. I read it through and through. I consulted with folks, and the things that you folks are concerned about just aren't there. And that's why I support it." And there were a lot of people who were part of the Tea Party who basically threw the colonel under the bus because he didn't do exactly what they wanted him to do. And I've always been like this, man. I don't want a politician who's going to do exactly what I want them to do. I want them to do what I would do if I had access to the same information they did.
Yeah, listen, there's no candidate out there, there's no politician out there that you're going to agree with 100% of the time. If there is, it's probably you.
I don't agree with me 100% of the time.
Exactly right. So it's still not going to happen. Alex Jones, this is just another one of his little grandstands. We see him go crying. Every once in a while. Has anybody heard his name in the last 7-8 months? No. So Trump's the key word. Put Trump in the search engine, and you'll get the response. So that's what Alex Jones is doing.
Well, exactly, and I think that's a huge part of it. Is he's really just kind of looking to get his name back out there because he, for the most part, has been deemed irrelevant, and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Okay, moving right along. So we're going to go from talking about probably a very, very popular president. Trump was interesting because he was both popular and unpopular at the same time. But in this case, we're going to be talking about a vice president. And there was a recent poll that came out. And the interesting thing about this poll is it deemed that there has never been a vice president, a new vice president, who has been as unpopular as Kamala Harris. In fact, her positive rating is only 37%. Now, Mike, keep in mind, this is also right on the back of a poll where they basically noted that over 50% or something, 51% or 60%, majority of Americans don't even believe that she is competent and capable of serving as president should she need to.
Yeah, listen, elections have consequences, right? You knew when you elected Tapioca Joe that you were going to get Kamala. And now that's what you have. She's, Craig, I don't even know if I can say she's incompetent. She's just absent. Where's she been? Is there a difference between absconding from her duties and doing her duties poorly? We can't even find her anywhere. She didn't know where the southern border was. Okay, she couldn't find it. Right? She was not able to get down there and take care of the mission. I think at some point, wasn't she in charge of Afghanistan too? Didn't they give her that? And they took that away from her as well. So you've got incompetence leading, absconding, and that's what you get. That's this administration.
Yeah, no, you are 100% correct. It is totally what this administration is about. And in the end, though, man, it's just like here's the scary part. Is we're literally watching the president mentally disintegrate right in front of our eyes. And all we know is that we have a vice president who is clearly not only unable or unprepared, but is probably never will be prepared to actually be president of the United States. How this person could actually do worse than the guy who actually doesn't remember where he is from hour to hour.
I'm telling you, it's still my belief, Craig. They are going to keep Biden propped up until he's in office for 2 years and one day. Because once he's in office for 2 years and one day, Kamala can take over, and it doesn't count towards her running the next election. Remember, if it's less than 2 years, it counts as a full term for her. If it's over 2 years that Joe's in office, that's bonus time. So she could theoretically be the president for 10 years minus a day. Okay. And that's what we're trying for.
Well, here's where I'll kind of I don't believe that is even that's a thing. Number one, because I think the president is disintegrating much faster than anyone anticipated.
Yeah, he is. He's faster. And that's why it may not work.
Yeah. Right. But so that was number one. But number two, Kamala Harris, just based on what she's put out there so far, there's absolutely positively no way she's ever going to actually be elected president of the United States. It would kind of be like me going out and buying a pair of tennis shoes in the event that one day I should get drafted into the NBA. So I better make sure I have the best shoes possible.
Listen, Craig, I keep a baseball glove in my truck. You've seen that, just in case I pass a Major League Baseball game and then need a first baseman. You know that.
Exactly.
On the flip side, how many celebrities lined up and said exactly what you just said about Donald Trump?
Yeah, but there was. I mean, you could look at Donald Trump and say, okay, he says some whacked out things. He says some things that we disagree with. He had a tendency to put dubs on it or exaggerate the truth. But there was never, ever any time where you could look at him and not. I mean, dude was sharp as a tack. He, like I said, you could question whether or not he. I mean, you could tell he believed whatever it was that he was saying, and you could tell by the policies that he was implementing, things were working. I mean, the economy was working. Our relationships.
I'm just saying that Kamala,
right?
She is competent mentally. Right. She's clearly, she has a problem with ethics and morality. But that side doesn't care, Craig. That's what they want.
Well, but they're not the ones where you're talking about convincing here. The people who have to be convinced are really, quite frankly, the people in the middle. Because the people on the far right, we know we're never going to support Kamala Harris. And the people on the left, we know no matter what, they're going to support Kamala Harris. So the question then is going to be, what are the people in the middle going to do? And when I look to them, I'm like, it's hard for them to look at what's going on and look at Kamala Harris's job performance and think they're going to support her for president.
Well, and remember though, if she gets the presidency, let's forget about whether it's before or after the halfway mark. If she gets the presidency, she's probably going to get it because we see the senility setting in. It's no longer her campaigning. She doesn't have to campaign and beat anybody. At that point, the vote becomes more of, do we approve of her or disapprove of her rather than elect her? And the approval ratings are always higher than election ratings. So she's got a leg up because she'll be black female, she'll be a liberal, she'll be in there. And it's not, do we elect her? It's, do we let her stay?
Well, you know what? And now that we're talking about it, there's also one other thing, if she were to do it, that would increase or improve her chances. And that would be to throw Joe Biden under the bus and everything that he did and all the mistakes that they made, blame it on his senility, and say we're going to start anew, we're going to start fresh.
That's of course what they're going to do. That's of course what they're going to do. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about starting anew, or maybe not. Some of you may or may not be aware of, have ever heard of OnlyFans. I will just tell you that if anyone says they have no idea what OnlyFans is, chances are they know what OnlyFans is. OnlyFans is basically a website where people who want to follow certain people, celebrities, watch videos or look at images of them, yada, yada, yada. And it's only available to them. It's a paid website called OnlyFans. They can do so. Well, it is pretty much turned into a porn site, is pretty much all it is. And they had to find that out the hard way because they announced that they were going to go ahead and get rid of and have no more explicit content on OnlyFans whatsoever. Well, needless to say, a bunch of people who, their content creators, rebelled, yada, 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 and they found out that if they got rid of explicit material, they would no longer have a business or no longer have a website. So they have since reversed their position. Now, that's not really what the story is, in my opinion, in this whole thing. what I found interesting is the reason why they were doing it in the first place, and that was because you had financial institutions, banks, and credit card companies that were basically saying, yeah, no, we're not going to put your transactions through because we don't like this content. Now, Mike, what other industry have we seen the banks go after because, well, they didn't like the products that they sold?
Yeah, we saw this under the Obama administration. We've seen it recently again, starting with the Biden administration. It was Operation Choke Point that the feds put down. And that was an Obama directive to take away the banking opportunities and take away all the banking access from the firearms industry and from the pornographic industry, as well as they even said alcohol and tobacco, because these were morality issues, and they wanted to take the access away to it. Now, how, Craig, firearms became a morality issue is only something that the anti-gunners know, but this absolutely has happened before and has been precedent set where they've gone after the banking.
Well, and Mikey, it's funny because I just got through reading a book, Liberal Fascism, by Jonah Goldberg. And he talked about what fascism is and kind of how it works and how it creeps in. And it's really kind of a big part of fascism is the government getting the financial industry to start to implement policies. They don't mandate it, but they partner with industry, with corporations to implement an agenda, right? We've seen it with guns. We've seen it with COVID-19. We've seen it with election fraud and big tech. And we've seen it with, and this is an example of that. Now, this is not us advocating for or against pornography or anything like that. Adults are going to do what adults are going to do. But what we have to be very careful of is that we're not allowed business or corporate industry to be manipulated to push a particular agenda by government, because, folks, that is the very definition, or that is what very much leads into what we more commonly know as fascism.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's funny to see, OnlyFans make this reversal, because they were absolutely opposed to this a week ago, Craig. We had this conversation where they were all about, oh, this is it, we're not going to do this anymore. It's I think the joke we made was, if they got rid of all the porn on the internet, there'd only be one website left, and it would be titled "Bring Back the Porn."
Once again, I do not have. I did look it up one time, so I do know that at one point, pornography was the number one industry on the internet, and quite frankly, was responsible for a lot of the innovations on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. If there was no porn on the internet, Craig, you and I would still be on dial-up speed, talking to each other on a telephone in a tape dispenser, a tape player, doing the old 56K modems at best. It wasn't until the porn came along in the internet, and that was it. I remember probably 20 years ago there was a cartoon. It was a drawing, a cartoon, and it had a picture of the information superhighway, which is what, remember, we used to call the internet, the information superhighway. And it had a road leading to technology, a road leading to science, a road leading to research, and it was these little roads that went off into the distance and on major highways. But then there was one little side road that went off to an old shack of a building, and it said porn, and it had about 1 million cars parked at it.
Yeah, once again, not advocating one way or the other. Just once again, the whole point is be careful what you ask for when you start asking for not just the government, but when you start asking then corporations to be the arbiters of what's moral and what is not. Right. Because keep in mind, they have a profit motive. Yep. And that profit motive really is not even, there is nothing, they have no responsibility to protect your rights. They don't. Yeah, and at least government has the facade of the responsibility when they take that oath of office to respect your rights and respect the Constitution. Corporations have no such obligation. But yeah, let me recommend that book, Liberal Fascism by Jonah Goldberg. Really, really interesting read. It actually shows that most fascism, while people want to tie fascism to the right, it's actually more commonly a tool of the left. Not solely, but it's more commonly a tool of the left.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good book. You should get it, folks.
All right, moving right along. Now, those of you who I don't know, you probably remember the case of Kate Steinle. She was a tourist in San Francisco who was shot to death by an illegal immigrant who claims to have found a gun that was owned by a U.S. park ranger, found a loaded gun, shot it accidentally. This is what he says, and she wound up dying. She wound up getting struck by the round and dying. Anyway, so the family of Kate Steinle's family was suing the federal government for, basically, I won't say negligent, but basically for being negligent with this firearm, because the U.S. Ranger was negligent with his firearm. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled that, that the federal government is not financially liable for what happened, for the misplacement of this firearm or for her death.
Yeah, I get the liability issue and how they decided it. I would like to have seen, I'd still like to know the outcome of how this firearm was obtained. It was lost, it was misplaced, it was stolen. Those are big deals. I mean, if there was neglect on the part of the park ranger, this federal officer, in securing their firearm, why wouldn't the federal government, why wouldn't this officer be held responsible? I'm sure California has a law, Craig, that says if your firearm is used to shoot a child, with the Child Safety Protection Act, that they're liable. Why wouldn't this officer be liable if he left his firearm unsecure and it was used to kill somebody? I don't know why we didn't dig down deeper into how the firearm got into bad guys' hands.
Well, yeah, because ultimately what this was about, it was about illegal immigration was the number one issue relating to it. And it's, here's the thing, folks. I don't know if this was an intentional homicide or if this was an accidental misfire of a found firearm or whatever it is. But we know that there is ample evidence of those who are in this country illegally, who have committed crimes and harmed people, killed people, raped people, done all sorts of things. This was just probably one of the most visible examples. But there are hundreds of other examples of people who've been repeatedly deported, and yet continue to get back into the country and continue to commit crimes against people who are here, in fact, legally. It is, and what we're seeing right now on our southern border is opening the doors for even worse to happen. But in this particular case, once again, I agree with you, Mike. If this officer has been deemed to not secure his firearm, if he had not secured his firearm appropriately, and it was either stolen because of his lack of securing it, or if it was just, he just misplaced it and left it somewhere. Either way, I find it hard to believe that the federal government isn't at least somehow partially financially liable.
Yeah, listen, I can't help but think that there's some liability here. If the gun was stolen, they would say it from day one. The firearm was stolen from an officer. This immigrant stole the firearm, but it's unknown. Acquisition is a suspect at best.
Yeah, well, and the problem is this is the Ninth Circuit Court of Schlemiels, so
yeah.
You have to look. If you go to the circus, you're gonna run into clowns.
That's it. And we got about half of them sitting on the court there, like you said. Yeah. Yeah.
It just
for me though, I live on the East Coast, so not my circus, not my monkeys.
Not my. On that note, all right. So NYPD. Now this one, Mike, I want to have you kind of talk a little bit about, because I found this to be very interesting. That in New York City, they're actually going to now be issuing to recruits firearms that are easier to shoot because they're finding, or they believe that there's an issue with accuracy with NYPD officers. So, Mike, you are much more familiar with this and law enforcement than I am. So I wanted you to go ahead and talk a little bit about this, and not just tell us the story, but kind of maybe give us a little bit of the backstory so the folks kind of understand what they're talking about here.
Yeah, listen, for since the creation of NYPD up until the 60s, 70s, 80s, they were using revolvers in the police service there, and for the most part, in the 70s and 80s, everybody was down to using Smith and Wesson revolvers, and they were Model 10s or Model 10s, military and police, Model 64, 66s, all revolvers that look very close alike and operated all the same way from all the same manufacturer. Semi-auto started to come around. You started to see a mix of Smith and Wesson was the handgun that was authorized up there, the semi-auto gun, and then Glock happened, right? Glock come along, and Glock said, "We are here." Well, the one thing that the Smith & Wesson automatics and the Smith & Wesson revolvers all had in common was about an 11 to 12 pound trigger pull. So a nice, long, heavy trigger pull. All right. So the Glock comes along with a 4.5, 5.5 pound trigger. Well, when they started to transition to it, they realized very quickly that people did not have a lot of training on that firearm and were pulling off and doing accidental discharges. So they were shooting the guns much quicker than they anticipated shooting the guns. So the response was, rather than to train, we're going to take this new firearm that we got because of all the benefits it has and take away one of the benefits that it has. And they installed what was called the New York 1, which ended up being the New York 2 trigger. New York 1 trigger took it to about 8 pounds, and then the New York 2 trigger took it back up to 11 pounds. So they wanted everybody to be at that 11 pounds. Well, now, Craig, at the same time this is going on, you've had a flush of lawsuits in police work, because guess what? If you wanted to be a cop back in the 60s and 70s, you had to be a male, and you had to be 5'10", and that was it. There were no women. There were no smaller guys. There was nobody. There was no small people on the police department. All those lawsuits have been won, so now you have smaller stature people there. Well, some of them evidently have difficulty with an 11-pound trigger pull. Well, so they've decided to go to back to the original standard trigger pull, back down to that 5.5 pound. They're getting rid of all the old guns. All the Smith & Wessons are gone. All the revolvers are gone. They have just the Glocks left. They're going to be putting those 5.5 pound triggers in all of them. They're going to have 9mm only, try and have uniformity across the board. Craig, they've shown that they did their studies up there at their Firearms Bureau, and they said that with the heavier trigger pull, they're at about 88% accuracy on their shooting. With the lighter trigger pull, they're up to about 93%. So there is a minor statistical bump for the lighter trigger pull there. And hey, listen, you're going back to original design of one of the benefits of this gun. It's about time, And really, the reason NYPD takes forever to do anything is because when they do it, they have to do it 35,000 times because that's the number of officers they have.
Well, what's interesting is are these decisions made by politicians or made by experts who actually are working with law enforcement and working with firearms?
Well, their firearms tech branch in New York is basically its own division of firearms examination and processing. They are experts in the field, as better or as good as the FBI's firearms people, because again, you're supporting 35,000 officers and 8 million citizens. You better have the best there is available. It's not like a department with 100 people in it, that has to still farm that out to a larger agency. So this is good stats, good people, and the decision will be made by the police commissioner.
Well, and it's what's funny about this, and when I look at this, is it's like the unintended consequences of decisions. And once again, these are policymakers who are experts, and even they're not foreseeing some of these unintended consequences.
Right.
And then you have in some places, like when it comes to civilians' access to firearms and whatnot, you have politicians who have absolutely no expertise making these decisions as to what is what. And most of them don't even know or understand that there's a difference in a trigger pull and what that means, or difference in caliber. Because like in this case, one of the things they're also doing is they're also going specifically to 9mm.
Right, and that's getting rid of all the revolvers. Getting rid of those revolvers will keep everybody in 9mm now.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, hey. It's funny though, but there's actually people who are talking about suing the New York Police Department because their issue is, well, you're going to just make it easier to shoot people of color, and
yeah, I'm going to put a bump stock on it too. That way I can, and a rare breed trigger. That way I can just go out and spray minorities. Right, that's my goal. Just idiots.
Okay, Mikey. You are seriously putting your position as the diversity trainer for the Rundown in jeopardy with statements like that.
Oh no, listen, and here's who's guilty in there, and here's who needs to take a smack to the chops. It's those people talking about filing those lawsuits. I have no problem with diversity, with culture, with heritage, no matter what it is. My problem is with morons, and that's what they evidently have a bunch of up there.
Yes, as a matter of fact, they do. Which kind of leads us to our parting shot. Now, Mike, you sent this one to me, and I found it to be hilarious. Seeing as how this administration is all for making sure that only safe, law-abiding people are actually able to own or possess firearms, one would think that the Taliban has actually passed a firearms background check.
I'm pretty sure that most of them have never committed a felony inside the United States, so they probably pass it, right, Craig?
Well, there's always the mental health aspect part of it. Although religious fanaticism considered a mental illness?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. What other things they have going on there? Let's see. Not a U.S. citizen, so they couldn't have passed that part of the background check. We know they don't care about domestic violence, right? So they can't pass that part of the background check. Yeah, it's just a joke. Listen, 600,000, individual machine guns, handed down now, and that's what I'm talking about. Not AR-15s. I'm talking about M16s, actual M16s and M4s handed over to them. Craig, now that I think about it, what we should probably do is we should send Beto O'Rourke over there because he's coming to take your AR-15s.
He's not going to have anything to take. He's not going to have anything to take. They've all got M4s and M16s. And Apache helicopters and, $85 billion worth of military equipment.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, I'll tell you what, here's the one thing I will say is that look, he made President Obama look like, and his Fast and Furious look like an amateur.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's see how many of these actually end up on our southern border, Craig, because that's what will happen. We know from the end of the Korean War, items that we were left behind at the end of the Korean War that were captured after the lines moved again, that we saw those weapons being used against us in Vietnam, 13, 14 years later. And it was every bit of it was carried by foot up and down through the Southeast Asia to be used against us. So let's see what happens now that they've got more than just bicycles and goat trails to move this stuff with.
Oh yeah, and the stuff that they don't know how to utilize now, they're probably going to get training from either the Chinese or the Russians on how to use it, or they're just going to sell it to someone and get some other stuff that they actually really want.
It's going to be like this, Craig. YouTube, how do you fly a Black Hawk? And then they're going to pull up the video and watch it. Then 10 minutes later, be like, YouTube, how do you fix a Black Hawk?
I broke it.
That's it.
Oh, folks. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of our show today. Now, tomorrow it's Freedback Friday. Mikey, do we know what we're going to have available for Freedback Friday? Nice.
Got ourselves a nice 80% paperweight here. 70-75 aircraft grade aluminum paperweight. It sits right on your desk, holds the papers down, just like that.
And that is courtesy of?
That is courtesy of our good friends at Grid Defense.
Yes, our good friends at Grid Defense. Thank you so very much. We very much appreciate you. Folks, take a moment, visit our sponsors, Grid Defense, Guerrilla Machining, the California Republican Assembly, which, by the way, Mike, I want to tell you, so the California Republican Assembly is now not just the fastest growing, but now is actually the largest conservative Republican organization in the state of California. So if you're a fellow card-carrying member of the vast right-wing conspiracy, please take a moment, check out the California Republican Assembly, become a member today. As I like to say, if you are not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Don't be part of the problem.
Yeah, I think, you know what, Craig, and we're right here on the rundown going to take credit for their growth. It's been our publicity that we've been giving them that has made them. So
I'm gonna take full and absolute credit. But they're doing some good work there in California, and with the recall, I'm sure if you are in California, I'm sure they can use your support. And by the way, they are a member of a larger group called the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. So if you're in another state and you want to join a group that is taking the fight to the left, please make sure you check them out. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's program. Very much appreciate you tuning in. Now, remember, if you're going to watch tomorrow and you want a chance to win our free giveaway, you got to watch on the rundown. So you got to do it on either our Facebook channel or on our YouTube channel, because those are the ones that we monitor for comments. You can find us on YouTube. Just go to the rundown.us. That's the rundown.us. Or you can just go to 2A News Rundown and find us. If you put that in on Facebook, you should be able to find us there.
There you go. Do it. Make it happen. Share,
make it happen.
On YouTube. We'll see you on Facebook.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that'll be it. We'll talk to you guys later. Remember, like, share, subscribe. Encourage your friends to do the same.
We'll see you tomorrow.